Hi, this is the first tutorial in the Vcv-E series. It will cover the pronunciation of Vcv-E notes, as well as some symbols and extras. I want to preface this by saying that I am from California and I have an accent. I will do my best to pronounce as clear and concise as possible, but it is inevitable my accent will seep through. In California, we lean towards a more relaxed pronunciation. We also don't have the caught merger phenomenon here. If you do have it where you live and want to make a distinction, we have add-on lists for those sounds. And on the matter of pronunciation, as long as you get as close as possible, you shouldn't worry about your accent so much. It's not as big a deal as some people make it out to be, and frankly, it's a form of gatekeeping in the community. Just do your best and your effort will show through. Anyway, let's get to it. We're going to start with the vowels. Vowels are noises that you can carry. You should practice these in their carried form so that you are comfortable with them. If you're a non-native English speaker, I have a sheet with video links that go into the pronunciation of these sounds with a more professional linguist slant. The first set of vowels you should already be familiar with. They're the Japanese standard vowels. The first one is ah, as in bought. The long form of it is ah, caught, ka. The next one is e, as in see. E, ki. The next one is oo, as in shoe. Ooh, coo. The next one is as in pet, or ka. And the last one is o, as in foe, or ko. The second set are more English specific, but show up in more than just English. The first one is as in bit. Ki. The next one is as in bat. Ka. The might sound a smidge different when you're closing into an N or an M. But it's the same noise. The next one is as in but. Ka. The next one is as in put. K. And the last one is as in bird. Ker. It's very important to understand the difference between capital U and capital V, because they will impact your English pronunciation a lot. Capital V, or is very relaxed and an open sound. It's also generally the schwa noise. You can sometimes use a glottal stop to make the schwa more pronounced, but is almost always the noise. It's also important to remember that singing and speaking are very different. So if you're not doing rap, you're probably not going to encounter the schwa in the technical way it shows up anyway. The capital U, or noise, is more closed. It shows up in pull, good, put, and should. It's very important to know the difference between these two because they will make a huge difference in your pronunciation. The last set of vowels is the diphthongs. These are actually a combination of two noises, and in Vcv-E, you will have these only in CVC form, or you can create the fusion by changing your blending vowels. The first one is I, as in I, or shy, or fly. It's a combo of and e, or sometimes and it. Depends a little on how the word is pronounced. But it's I, kai. The next one is O, as in go or flow. If you're an English speaker, you probably don't hear a huge difference between this one and the Japanese form of O, but the way we pronounce our O's has a more rounded U sound at the end. So it's like, oh, you kind of hear it paper in. Oh, ko. The next one is ow, as in cow, pow, or ouch. Ow. It's a combo of and or and oo, again, depending on the pronunciation. As in ow, cow. The next one is a, as in play, pay, or say. A, k. And the last one is oi, as in boy or toy. Oi is a combo of O and E or O and E, depending on the emphasis of the word. Oi, 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 koi, koi. So, as I said before, the OU and the Japanese O are fairly similar, but the diphthong has a more rounded noise. If you're a native English speaker, you should, instead of trying to focus on over-pronouncing the OU, you should focus on under-pronouncing the Japanese one and not rounding it so much, because it's going to make a huge difference in the way that your Japanese and Spanish sounds say, and it's going to make it a lot less accented. Okay, so that's it for the vowels. Now I'm going to cover the less common sounds that aren't vowels, including symbols and consonants. The first one, or two technically, that I want to cover is DH and TH. DH shows up in the. It's less airy than the TH noise, and it's similar in many ways to the V noise. You can carry it like th, as in the, that, them, and breathe. The TH, on the other hand, is more similar to an F noise. It's airy. Think of thigh, thank, and thumb, and breath. The next one is KH. It's a fricative noise that is basically non-existent in English. I might not pronounce it very well since I am a native English speaker, but it's kind of a hiss noise. It's very common in European languages, especially in German. It's a che, chen. Just practice it and you'll get a little better at it as time goes on, hopefully. Che, che. And the next one is RH. It's very similar to KH. It's another fricative. It's more common to French, and it's a little softer. Again, I'm probably going to pronounce this very poorly, but it's hu, he, hu, ha. With this one, from what I've seen, try not to put so much emphasis on the hissiness of it. The last one in this line is just capital L. It's a long L noise. It's more similar to the L that shows up at the end of words and not the L at the beginning of words. You'll probably do it naturally if you're a native English speaker, but it's worth noticing that there is a difference between the two because you'll make covers and then not understand why they sound the way they do. La, li, lu. You hold it. Just a l. Now for the next column of sounds. The first one is a capital R. This is the English R. You're probably very familiar with it if you're a native English speaker. It's similar to the 3 symbol, the but it's shorter. Its mouth shape is more similar to W. Wa, ra, ra, re, ru, re. It's very much like the it's just not as long. The next one is lowercase r. This is the Japanese R, the one that shows up in Spanish and most languages. The English R is actually pretty uncommon. It's kind of like a clicking noise almost. It's the noise that shows up when we pronounce T's and D's fast, like metal, better. It's ra-ra, ra-ra-ri-ra, ra-ra, better, better. The next one is a rolled R, or the double R. It's basically the same as the Japanese R, but multiple times. It takes more breath to make this noise, and it's kind of like a purring noise almost. It's a brrrr. You really just have to practice this one. It just takes practice to get your tongue to do that. If you have a shorter frenulum, the line thing under your tongue, you might not be able to make it. It's fine. If you can't make the rolled R, you can try to default to the Japanese R, and it won't be as nice, but it'll still work pretty well. The next one is ZH. It comes up in English pretty often, but it's more common in other languages, especially French and Russian. It's zh, as in treasure, measure. It's a noise you can hold, the zh, ja, ja, ji. And the last one is the NG. It shows up in English as an end. It's the ing noise, like going, showing. It's harder to pronounce for native English speakers at the beginning of words, but there are a few good ways to practice. You can try saying ing, ing, ing until your mouth gets a little more comfortable with it, or you can try to practice saying the word gnaw, like gnawing on wood, and just try closing your throat a little more. The sound is very close to the nga noise, so just try pulling your tongue up more, and with a little practice you should be able to get it. Nga, nga, ngi, nga, ngu, nge, nga. This one probably also has a pretty bad accent because it's not as common in English. Now that we are done with the consonants, I want to cover a very important section. These are common extras that as an utau user you've probably already encountered and you might have had some trouble with. The first one I'm going to cover is the hyphen symbol. It's used for vocal fry. It can show up at the beginning or the ends of sound. The noise comes from closing your throat before saying a vowel or at the end of a vowel. Some people are more naturally inclined to fry. I personally am one of those people. You've probably been hearing it this whole time. In its purest form, the fry is basically the grudge girl noise. Though, when recording them for utau, you want to make them a little more emotional and not so harsh. It's a bit of a hard noise to master. Even if you're more inclined to fry, you might be inclined to do it too hard and it doesn't sound the way you want. Or if you're not used to frying, you might just have a hard time making the noise at all. But basically, the more you practice, the more control over your muscles you'll have. There's also a difference in the noise between a high fry and a low fry, so you should practice in all different pitches. But basically, the sound's kind of like it can be a little moany, or like You can also make the noise on consonants. It's not as easy at all as it is with vowels, but it is a noise that you can master. Pa, sa, ta. It's not as pretty when you're hearing it through the speaker like this, but when it's in utau, it's a little prettier. Anyway, the next one is the IN symbol. In this voice bank set, it stands for inhale. You can do inhales before various notes instead of having a single standalone breath. It'll be better timed and more natural. Remember to use the P flag when using breaths, otherwise you're gonna get some horrible hiss noise. And you can experiment with softer and sharper breaths for varying results. It's best to avoid really gaspy ones though as your default inhale breath. You don't wanna go more like or ga. You want to make sure that you don't overdo it if it's a noise that's going to show up a lot. If you want to make more gaspy ones, you should experiment more with just standalone breaths. The next one is like the last one. It's EX. It's an exhale instead of an inhale. Basically the same, but this one can be a little harder. You can either drag it out or do it sharply and get different results. You can go or you can go and you're going to get very different results. I've had mixed results from doing both of those methods. Just try not to do them too sharp and don't make pop in your microphone and you should be good. The next one is the wiggly symbol. I'm not sure what the word is for this. It stands for carrying a note. It can be used for consonants and vowels, but it's much more common with vowels. You want to carry the note without tapering it off. If you taper it or drag it out in a weird way, you'll have bad results, especially with diphthongs. You want to go I, not I, and you don't want to go I, because you're just going to have results that are not useful for you at all. You want to try to just make a nice, clear, held note. These are used when utau does that horrible thing where it makes your note sound all wiggly. You can use a longer one for screams. They can be very useful. And the last one stands for a glottal stop. Glottal stops and fries are very similar sounds, but you do glottal stops naturally when you speak. When you use the phrase I am, you're almost always using a glottal stop. It's the break between two vowels. It's a break without silence. It's just you tensing up your throat to differentiate the sounds. Instead of You'll probably notice it more with I, like I. You just want to make sure to stop, but don't stop so much that you get a break between the two. Stop as fast as you can, basically. And that is it for the pronunciation video. I hope I was able to help. If there are more noises that you would like me to explain, leave a comment and I'll make a second video once there are a few. See you in the recording video.